Well, I think we've just had the plug and the advert for it. We now come to the business question. Lucy Powell, Chandelier of the House.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To ask the Leader if she will give us the forthcoming business.
Leader.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. The business for the week commencing the 25th of March will include, on Monday the 25th, remaining stages of the Investigatory Powers Amendment Bill Lords, followed by a motion relating to the appointment of an acting Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman. Tuesday the 26th of March, Committee of the Whole House and remaining stages of the Pedicabs London Bill Lords, followed by a debate on a motion relating to the National Policy Statement for National Networks. The House will rise for the Easter recess at the conclusion of business on Tuesday the 26th of March and return on Monday the 15th of April. Business for the week commencing the 15th of April will include, on the Monday, consideration of a Lord's message to the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill, followed by a debate on a motion on hospice funding. The subject for this debate was determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Tuesday the 16th of April, second reading of the Tobacco and Vapes Bill. Wednesday the 17th of April, if necessary, consideration of a Lord's message to the Safety of Rwanda Asylum and Immigration Bill, followed by second reading of the Finance No. 2 Bill. Thursday the 18th of April, a debate on a motion on access to redress schemes, followed by a debate on a motion on COVID-19 pandemic response and trends in excess deaths. The subjects for these debates were determined by the Backbench Business Committee. Friday the 19th of April, private members' bills.
Lucy Powell.
Thank you. First of all, can I congratulate Vaughan Gething on his election as First Minister for Wales. Vaughan has made history as the first black leader of any European country. That's something I'm sure the whole House can be proud of. We certainly are. Following from my question last week, it's good to see the Tobacco and Vapes Bill has now been timetabled, although it looks like they will be relying on our votes to pass their flagship bill. I also welcome the Football Regulation Bill finally being published, but when will we get its second reading? Mr Speaker, this could have been our last business questions before a general election in May, but the Prime Minister bottled it. He may hope going later increases his chances, but he's quickly found out he's made things worse. He's being buffeted by events not in control of them, more division, more chatter, authority ebbing away day after day, the many resets not working. The public is just sick to death of Tory chaos. No wonder we are rising early for Easter. Mr Speaker, the House of Commons Guide to Procedure states that the Government should reply to the recommendations in a Select Committee report within 2 months. So where is her response to the Procedure Committee's report on accountability of Lord Secretaries of State? It was published over 2 months ago, and she has repeatedly told us she would follow it. When will she bring forward the motion? Just this week, the Foreign Office had to be dragged to Parliament again on the horrific situation in Gaza and in Rafah. It is not on. She said she wanted the views of the Lords Procedure Committee first. However, I understand she's still not contacted them. Has she? So, Mr Speaker, let's address the elephant in the room. There's an unusual level of interest in today's business questions following the swirling rumours and speculation. Thousands of column inches written about the unfolding drama. Will she, won't she? When will it come to a head? Yet she's remained tight-lipped, ducking the questions. But now we have the answer. The Rwanda ping-pong won't be until after Easter. So why, if it's such an emergency, has she yet again delayed programming this legislation? She delayed committee stage over Christmas because of disquiet on their side. Now she's pushed back further Lords' amendments until after Easter. I know she will want to blame the Lords, but it's her timetable and it keeps getting stretched. Is it because the costs just keep going up and the scheme is unworkable? On top of the £500 million price tag for the 300 people the Home Office intends to send to Rwanda, the National Audit Office's damning report yesterday adds to their woes. Not only is the Home Office spending £8 million a day on hotels, they've wasted tens of millions of pounds on new sites to house asylum seekers, which will never be used. The truth is, if they were ready to implement this scheme, we would see the bill back here next week. This is their timetable, it's their delay, no one else's. I know the leader will be quick to herald this week's inflation figures as some kind of proof their plan is working. I knew that would get a cheer. But she might be less keen to highlight the ever-rising housing costs not included in those figures. Rents up 9% in the last year and mortgage rates still crippling homeowners. That's why living standards have actually fallen this Parliament for the first time on record. The Health Minister claimed this morning that the cost of living crisis is over. They are so out of touch, it is embarrassing. So can I ask about their plans for the economy? They say they want to scrap national insurance altogether. And the Chancellor floated another 2-point cut yesterday. But who's going to pay for this £46 billion unfunded promise? Is it pensioners or the health service? People deserve to know. The last time they embarked on such a huge unfunded tax cut, they crashed the economy and had to get rid of their Prime Minister. I know many on their side are now actively discussing wielding the sword or a coronation, both things she's very accustomed to. But I've heard her before in these sessions, giving a rather fulsome, sometimes slightly over-the-top, personal tribute to the Prime Minister. Given that so many are losing faith, I thought she might want to take this opportunity today to give us another gushing homage. Yes. Anything less might be misinterpreted. Yes. Last time, she described him as a signpost. But deep down, she knows that the only direction he's pointing towards is a crushing defeat.
Leader of the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have briefly emerged from under the hairdryer, put down my Take a Break magazine, managed not only to find my way to the chamber this morning, but also remember on which side of it I am supposed to be sitting. To be present and correct for business questions, quite a feat, if media reports are to be believed. And I have been buoyed up by what the Honourable Lady has said. After all, this week we have seen inflation fall to 3.4%. Real wages are rising. We have positive growth. Household energy bills will fall by £250 a year in a couple of weeks' time. Average disposable income is growing, and we have signed the accession treaty for CPTPP, which will create a huge number of high-wage jobs. And it is confirmation that the plan is working when on Thursdays the opposition focuses not on these facts in the real world, but on the Westminster rumour vortex. So let me address the Honourable Lady's points in turn. First of all, I will join with her in sending my congratulations to Vaughan Gethin and wish him well in his new post. I am glad that the opposition welcome the tobacco and vaping bills and also the football governance bill, and look forward to the opposition supporting and getting involved in those bills. And with regard to the Select Committee report with regard to the Foreign Secretary's accountability of this House, I am still in time to respond, and it will be their lordships that will be deliberating on that. But the Honourable Lady brings up Rwanda, and I do wish to clarify that I have no wish to blame their lordships for the delay in this bill. Let me be very clear, I wish to blame Labour lords for this delay. For all Labour's talk on being tough on borders, they have voted against our plans to do that 111 times. And they have voted 98 times against our measures to stop the boats. Despite their being talking tough on crime, they have voted against our plans for tougher sentences and new police powers. And this week, we learned that despite all the armed forces frottage that has been coming from the opposition front bench, they are planning an EU defence pact, right at the time when all efforts should be with NATO. NATO has standards, clear and agreed sets of principles about what it will do and under what circumstances, and it has been busy. Ukraine, Kosovo, Iraq, support for the African Union, Baltic air policing, Aegean maritime security, Sea Guardian, a standing naval force, and of course disaster relief. In contrast, since its creation in 2007, the EU battle group, which has no such agreed threshold for deployment, has never actually got out the door. There could be no greater metaphor, Mr. Speaker, to illustrate the different approach between our two parties. Labour are all talk, including 126 minutes on ferrets this week, I understand, versus practical action on our side. It's virtue signalling over there versus results over here, unfunded policies over there, costed proposals here. It's no plan versus a plan that is working. And to borrow from the opposition's newfound heroine, Margaret Thatcher, if you want something saying, wait long enough and Labour will. If you want something doing, vote Conservative. That will be announced in the usual way.
The Vice Chair of the Backbench Committee, Bob Blackman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the House may be aware, the Chairman of the Backbench Business Committee is not able to be here because his daughter-in-law is very seriously ill in hospital, and it's right that he's by her side at this time. And I'm sure the whole House will wish her a speedy recovery. On behalf of the Backbench Business Committee, we are now full in terms of debates until the 9th of May, provided we are allocated the time by the leader. Equally, for Westminster Hall, we are full until the 2nd of May. Obviously, we will have control of that time. So all those that wish to get applications in before the summer recess might consider doing so quickly, as the Backbench Business Committee has been working overtime to process these applications. Can I also say, Mr. Speaker, that the shocking rise in anti-Semitism and anti-Muslim hatred has obviously been well publicised. What has not been well publicised is the anti-Hindu hatred that is going on our campuses and across our country. The all-party parliamentary group, which I have the honour of chairing of British Hindus, has recently published a report on this hatred, and clearly action is required all round. So will my right honourable friend allow time in the Chamber for a debate on hatred of British Hindus and enable us to celebrate the contribution they make to this country? And while I'm on my feet, given that it's Holi on Tuesday, will she join with me in wishing all Hindus Holi Ha?
Leader.
Well, first of all, can I, on behalf of all of us in this place, send our good wishes to the honourable member for Gateshead and his family at this time. And can I thank my honourable friend for stepping into him and for assisting members with an advert for future business from the Backbench Business Committee. With regard to what he says about the all-party parliamentary group's report on anti-Hindu hatred, I will certainly make sure that the relevant Secretary of State has heard what he has said today. I do know that the honourable gentleman has been campaigning for some time on this matter, and I know that he will have listened to what the Minister for Equalities said at Equalities Questions yesterday with regard to this matter.
SNP spokesperson Deidre.
Mr. Speaker, may I associate myself with the remarks about the new Welsh First Minister and also pass on my very best wishes to former First Minister Mark Drakeford. Now, of course, we are grateful to the leader for making time in her hectic schedule to pop along to the House of Commons today. All that leadership, plotting and scheming doesn't just happen by itself. She's been a busy bee. We can only pray we are nearing the season finale of this endless Tory soap opera. But her leadership campaign hasn't stopped her coming here today, so she can ignore our questions in person. Every Thursday, she displays some essential qualities to be the next Tory Prime Minister. For a start, regarding questions as a bit of a nuisance, something to be avoided at all costs. They get in the way of her important work, recording all those YouTube videos about Willy Wonka or escaped monkeys or whatever. And if you don't take my word for it, check Hansard. Now, the leader was right last week that I hadn't sent her through my many unanswered questions. There's so many to compile, Mr. Speaker. However, I am happy to offer a few reminders right now. No answer on whether Baroness Michelle Mone is a paid-up member of the Tory party, as she herself claims. No answer on the startling increase in child poverty in England. She's far too busy to deal with those distractions. And we still have no idea how much taxpayers' money was wasted on her government's initial State of the Union report to the UK Cabinet, written at the height of the pandemic, remember, and still kept firmly under wraps until we got some insights at the COVID inquiry. It is still strictly for Tory eyes only. Even now, Scots are not allowed to know the costs or decisions taken to stifle our democracy. But with the revelation that 80% of young Scots said they want independence, it's no surprise the Cabinet panicked and swung into fervent Union Jackery action. So can she take a moment from her busy campaign diary and answer these questions, for which I make no apology for asking again? How much taxpayers' money was spent on that State of the Union paper? What was the strategy the Cabinet was asked to endorse? And when can we see it in full? Perhaps a statement from the relevant minister if she doesn't have those answers to hand. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I get to the specifics of what the Honourable Lady raises, I have noticed a consistent hostility and unpleasantness in the Honourable Lady's questions towards me, and this has been going on for some time, weeks in fact, Mr. Speaker. I'm getting the impression the Honourable Lady does not like me, perhaps even hates me, and her followers on social media certainly do, and there are patronising undertones in what she says, and I believe she is saying that I'm deficient in my abilities to answer her questions, perhaps because I am a woman. I feel very intimidated, upset and deeply, deeply hurt. So as well as noting her questions, I have been sat on the front bench filling in a hate-related report form, which my officials have kindly placed in my folder. I'm going to have one ready for every single SNP colleague that gets to their feet. If I did send it to the Scottish Police, they would be obliged to investigate, increasing the growing number of reasons why they are struggling to attend burglaries. I sincerely hope that the SNP's new hate crime laws does not have a chilling effect on our exchanges. Turning to the Honourable Lady's questions, I'm not sure the Honourable Lady has understood the purpose of business questions. The questions that she has asked are questions which should be directed to departments, the Cabinet Office, the Department for Work and Pensions. She can ask these questions of me, and I can write to these departments for her, but she could also cut out the middleman and just write to the departments herself. I look forward to receiving her list of questions. I think it is now 2 months overdue when she said she would send it to me, and I will farm them out to the relevant government departments and ask them to respond to the Honourable Lady.
Fellow of the House, Sir Peter Bottomley.
Mr. Speaker, two brief things. One is the Leader of the House will soon see the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman's report on women's state pension age, findings on injustice and associated issues. These in effect the WASPy women, and I pay tribute to my colleague from Worthing, the Honourable Member for East Worthing and Shoreham, who with me campaigned and saw various Secretaries of State. Can the Leader of the House say how the Government intends that the House should respond to the reference to Parliament that we should consider the remedy they're recommending? It's not a massive remedy, but it's an important one. The second issue, she may have heard me question the Prime Minister yesterday about planning and building over prime agricultural fields. Later yesterday afternoon, Arran District Council Planning Committee looked at the application. All the members looked as though they were going to turn it down until the planning officer said the costs of an appeal by the developer was more than the council could afford, and then all of those, except for the Conservatives and one Liberal, voted to leave it to the council planning officers to make the decision. Can we have a debate on intimidation on costs by developers that make district and borough councils feel they have to approve something or allow something to go through which should be opposed, in which you join me in recommending the full council calls it in, and if they don't, the Secretary of State does?
Well, can I thank the Father of the House for his questions, and I certainly know that the Department will want to consider what is announced today with regard to WASPy women. I know this is a concern across the House, and I'm sure that the Minister will want to come and update the House at the earliest opportunity. They will want time to consider what is said today, but I hope that an update could be given to colleagues before recess. And then I think he raises a worrying concern that is happening, and I'm sure that the Secretary of State for Levelling Up would be very concerned to hear that people are not shouldering the responsibilities to which they were elected to do. I shall make sure he's heard what the honourable gentleman has said.
Janet Daby.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. This week I was astonished and appalled to find that Moat Housing in my constituency is increasing rents and maintenance service charges in affordable accommodation to exorbitant amounts. Something really needs to be done about these, as these increases to rent is over 9% and increases to the maintenance service charges is a whopping 50%. There is a level of urgency about these because these rises are due to be set in April. So therefore I ask the Leader of the House if she will ensure the Secretary of State for Levelling Up and Housing and Communities looks into this case so that residents do not fall into in-work poverty, so they are not priced out of the area, and to ensure that the Housing Association deals with them efficiently and fairly and actually keeps to the formula that was initially given to residents to calculate such increases.
Yeah, well done. Sorry to hear about this situation in the Honourable Lady's constituency. I will certainly make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what she has said today, but I hope also that the organisation she refers to has also heard her words today and can come to some accommodation with their residents.
Theresa Villiers.
We had a debate on improving access to GP appointments. In the north central London area, the number of appointments in GP practices per month is at 680,000, 50,000 up on last year, which is a huge improvement, but a debate would give us a chance to discuss pharmacy first and how that can enable people to get treatment from their pharmacist, freeing up more GP appointments for patients with more complex conditions.
Well, I thank my right honourable friend for raising this. General practices are now delivering 20% more appointments than they were pre-pandemic, and there are over 33 million appointments carried out in January of this year alone. We also have brought in, as she rightly points out, Pharmacy First. I think this has been well received in our communities, but of course there is always more we can do to actually publicise these new services that are available to everyone in our community. Health orals is not until after Easter, so I will make sure that the department has heard what she said.
Barry Sheerman.
Mr Deputy Speaker, is the Leader of the House aware that the biggest killer of children and young people worldwide is death in a crash on a road? Could we have an early debate to talk about how we globally do something vigorously to cut this back? I have the privilege of being the chair of the Independent Council for Road Safety International. It kills so many children worldwide. They're all avoidable deaths. Could we have a debate that focuses on this?
Well, I would say to the honourable gentleman, I did know that because I've heard the honourable gentleman campaign on this issue many times, and I thank him for it. As well as improvements that we can make in the UK plays a huge role in helping other nations get better at road safety, and I thank the honourable gentleman for highlighting that fact today, and he knows how to apply for a debate.
Robin Walker.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Following the introduction of the very welcome Football Governance Bill, can we have a debate in government time about the future of rugby union and how we make sure professional rugby in England is effectively regulated and supported? Clubs like Worcester Warriors deserve their chance to come back into professional rugby, but with no certainty about the shape of next year's championship and a clash between the law of administration and the RFU's definition of rugby creditors, it is hard for investors to plan with any certainty. A century on from when rugby was invented in the West Midlands, is it not a matter of concern that there might be no top-flight professional club in the West Midlands area?
Well, my honourable friend raises a very important point. I'm glad he welcomes the Football Governance Bill, and he will know also that the government appointed independent advisers last year to work on the future stability of rugby union, and we will continue to work with the rugby authorities, including the Rugby Football Union and the Premiership and Premiership Rugby, as well as Sport England, and to support rugby in all its forms. I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard his particular concerns in this regard, and he knows how to apply for a debate.
Jardine.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. The UK Government recently awarded councils in England emergency funding in the amount of £700 million, much of it in response to the crisis facing social care. The Scottish Government received consequential funding on top of the normal block grant as a result. However, Scottish councils are still facing budget issues in this area. My own council in Edinburgh yesterday had to agree to close 2 care homes, reduce packages and cut some funding by 10%. So, could we have a statement from the Treasury or perhaps the Scotland Office about how it could be made easier for Scottish councils to apply directly for this emergency funding when it is made available, rather than continue to face the cuts? Perhaps I should borrow one of the leader's hate forms.
There's no staff.
Perhaps we could, as I say, have a statement on how they could apply directly when this fund is made available, rather than continue to wait for the Scottish Government to act.
Well, the Honourable Lady makes a very good point indeed, several very good points actually. And we know that the devolved administrations continue to receive about 20% more funding per head than the UK government spends on the same things in England, for example. And we know that there are many examples of the Scottish Government hanging on to those funds and not passing them on to councils, but also passing on, for example, relief to businesses as well, and this is very disappointing. So I think the Honourable Lady makes a very interesting suggestion, and I will make sure that both the Cabinet Office and the Department for Levelling Up have heard her words.
Sir Geoffrey Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just 5 years ago, Mr. Speaker, the gates of Appledore Shipyard closed. It was a picture of dereliction, its workforce dispersed to the four winds. But now it has experienced a glorious revival. It employs several hundred employees. It has 45 apprentices, having been taken over now by Harland and Wolff. And similar picture of prosperity and thriving is taking place in Belfast today. Can we have a debate on the revival of English shipbuilding and shipbuilding in Northern Ireland that has been presided over by this government's maritime shipbuilding strategy?
To the House.
Could tell by the audible sounds of approvement running across the whole House that if the Honourable Gentleman, the Right Honourable Gentleman, was to apply for a debate, it would be very well attended. This is something I am very passionate about, and I'm pleased to say that I have worked with Appledore, but also Harland and Wolff in Northern Ireland, and every shipyard around the UK, including the Scottish Maritime Cluster, to ensure that we can build some new ships and smooth out those fallow periods in those shipyards. So I think this is an excellent topic for a debate, and I would encourage him to apply for one.
John McDonnell.
Could the Leader of the House ask one of her ministerial friends to come to the House before recess to give us a report on the civil service pay negotiations? There was a recent independent report by the Queen Mary University that evidenced that civil service pay had fallen by 1.5% every year since 2011, and now the government and the Permanent Secretary admitted this before the committee is now becoming a minimum wage employer. That's resulted in PCS now balloting after Easter for industrial action. The union is asking simply for a pay award to match inflation, but some restoration on lost pay. If we could have a ministerial statement, we might be able to avert this decline in industrial relations within the civil service.
Well, I will certainly make sure that the Cabinet Office have heard what the Honourable Gentleman has said, although I do think what he said isn't correct. I know from my own experience in departments that I have been in that where we have encountered low pay or pay that is not above the national living wage, that we have increased pay, most notably in my case ensuring that no member of our armed forces or civilians that work in defence is earning anything less than that.
Matthew Offord.
Following a fire in a council-owned property last summer, Barnet Council commissioned an independent investigation to assess if there were any other similar properties in the borough with the same fire defects. The investigation has identified 153 council-owned properties, 7 leasehold and 426 freehold properties which were sold by the council under right to buy. These are all affected by the same conditions, and 459 of them are in my constituency in the ward of Burnt Oak. They now constitute a Category 1 hazard as defined by the Housing Act, and it's expected that the works to readdress the issues will cost £23,000 per house. Can we have a minister come to the dispatch box and advise what assistance the government will provide, particularly to leaseholders who purchased their properties when these buildings were compliant with building regulations, but now find themselves in an awkward and difficult financial situation?
Well, can I thank my honourable friend for all the work that he is doing on behalf of his constituents in this matter. The Department for Levelling Up is aware of the action that Barnet Council is taking and continues to engage closely with them on the next steps following the fire that he refers to. DLUC officials are seeking currently further information from Barnet Council regarding the nature of the risks that have been identified to understand whether their response is proportionate to the risks presented in low-rise stock. And the building safety regulator is also aware, keeping the situation under review and ensuring that what is being done is in line with their statutory responsibilities. He will know that, particularly with regard to unsafe cladding, this has been a priority for this government, and we're investing £5.1 billion to fund the cost of remedying that, which is 5 times what the opposition promised in their fire safety package at the last election.
Neil Hanley.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Queer theory extremism is having a pernicious impact on equality in rights, education, health and criminal justice. On April Fool's Day, the Scottish Government's illiberal hate crime legislation comes into effect, exerting a chilling effect on political discourse and severely limiting fundamental freedoms in a way that is hardly imaginable. Will the Leader of the House bring forward an open debate on this, given an incoming Labour administration is likely to replicate the dangerous policies being pursued by the SNP in Scotland and Labour in Wales?
Well, the honourable gentleman would have heard my comments earlier, and I think that is a very good point that he has made. Of course, we have always updated legislation to ensure that particular groups are protected, and where real harm is done to individuals, that action can be taken. But we also must ensure that free speech is protected. It's vital for a functioning society. It's vital for us to make progress as a society and for humanity too as well. This is critical stuff, and I thank him for raising it.
Andrew Rossendale.
The Leader of the House should know that there has been a shocking increase in crime in Greater London. In my own borough, in Havering, there was a stabbing recently in the Brewery shopping centre, and local people are quite afraid to go into the town centre, particularly in the evenings. Under Mayor Khan, we've seen a massive increase in crime. We don't get the police cover we need. As a traditional part of Essex, we're treated very differently being on the outskirts of Greater London. So will she, in government time, bring a debate forward to discuss about crime across Greater London, but particularly areas like Romford and Havering, which are being fleeced? We're paying for police cover that we're not getting.
Well, my honourable friend raises a very important matter, and when you look across the country as a whole, the police have done an amazing job on roughly the same resource. They have, if you strip out online fraud, halved crime, and that is a huge achievement. But there are parts of the country where that is not happening. He mentions London. West Midlands is an area as well, and I know that the West Midlands Mayor, Andy Street, is very concerned about that matter. But every time we hear about the Met, the Mayor of London is nowhere to be seen. The budget has been mismanaged. There is an enormous black hole in it, and I think that police officers in London do not feel that they are supported in doing the very difficult job that they have. The rise in particularly violent crime, knife crime and other crime is shocking, and there is a very imminent solution as to how Londoners can get a better deal, and that is to vote the current London Mayor out of office.
Marshall de Cordova.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Service charges are an industrial-scale scandal, with homeowners being lumbered with unaffordable bills. Constituents in Battersea have raised concerns about unregulated, uncapped and exponential service charge increases, whilst also being hit by the Tory mortgage bombshell. Now, after 14 years, the government have failed to take action to tackle this unregulated system. So can we now have a government statement on this service charge scandal, and what action is this government going to finally take?
Well, I hope that the Honourable Lady has raised this matter with the relevant department. I think the next questions to DLUC will be on the 22nd of April. I got from her opening remarks in the question that this was with regard to particular accommodation suppliers as opposed to utility companies and other standing charges, and it will be a matter for those organisations. If she's got particular issues she needs to raise, and I would encourage her to do that.
Done.
For a debate to allow Shropshire MPs to point out that, contrary to disingenuous Lib Dem leaflets, it is the Conservatives in government who are taking action to clean up our rivers, to help consumers buy British produce from our farmers, and bring down the cost of living through supporting the vulnerable, raising the state pension next month by double the current rate of inflation, and cutting taxes for those in work.
Well, my honourable friend is absolutely right, and in addition to all the progress that has been made, raising monitoring on storm overflows, which were just 7% when we came to office, it's now 100%, but also the huge amount of infrastructure work that is being done across the country to ensure that we can reduce the storm overflows when they happen and ensure that sewage is not released into our seas or our waterways. And on the 12th of March, Water UK published their Storm Overflow Action Plan dashboard for all overflows in England, and I would encourage people to go online and see it. You can see the work that has been done, you can see future work, and also the date by which it has been done, and massive progress has been made. I agree with him on the other points he has made. We're supporting farmers across the whole of the UK, particularly the Conservatives in Wales, who are fighting the Labour's plans to make their lives harder. And I thank the honourable gentleman for all that he is doing on all fronts, and he will know how to secure a debate on all of these issues if he so wishes.
Justin Matters.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Can I just come back to the question of the Ombudsman's report on WASPy women, because I understand what the Leader of the House has said about the Secretary of State wanting some time to read the report, but he must have known this was coming for some time, and let's be clear, millions of women have been waiting to hear what the government's response on this, and the Ombudsman himself has said the DWP has failed to offer any apology or explanation for its failings. That is why we need the Secretary of State to come here, and the Ombudsman has indicated that they've taken the extraordinary step of bringing this report to Parliament's attention now because they realise the importance of it and the urgency of some action being taken. So can I urge the Leader of the House to go back to the Secretary of State and suggest to him that it might be a good idea for him to come here tomorrow and give a statement about what he intends to do about this report?
Well, I hope I gave the impression in the earlier answer that I gave that I think Minister will want to come to the dispatch box. This is an important matter. I would suggest that we do this I hope we would be able to do it before recess. Tomorrow the House will not be as well attended as it might be next week, and so I hope that will be satisfactory for honourable members, and I shall make sure that he's heard what the honourable gentleman has said.
Martin Vickers.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Yet again, we have another bank closure in my constituency where Lloyds Bank are closing in the centre of Cleethorpes. We've had some success in part in Barton upon Humber. We've established a banking hub, but there is always a gap between the closure and alternative facilities being provided. Could the Leader find time for a statement or a debate where we can actually discuss how we can, not only with banking, but how we can deal with public services and ensure face-to-face contact between customer and provider?
Can I first congratulate my honourable friend who has raised this matter many times on what he has done to actually secure that banking hub and ensure that his constituents have access to those services. I would hope that the banking community in his area would ensure that there is no gap and that his residents, but also business customers, would be able to have face-to-face access to banking support that they need. My office stands ready to assist him in trying to make that happen.
Patrick Grady.
Mr Deputy Speaker, lots of us, myself included, have constituents who are literally worried sick about their friends or family who are caught up in the conflict in Gaza. So can a minister come to the House urgently for a debate or a statement on the need for a wider drawn family reunion or humanitarian visa process for people who are fleeing the violence in Israel and Gaza?
Hear, hear.
Well, I thank the honourable gentleman for his question, and he will know that and I hope he is in touch with the FCDO's consular services. They are working very hard with other government departments to ensure that anyone who needs assistance will have it. If he has any difficulty in accessing those services, my office will assist.
Peter Gibson.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Backbench Business Committee for granting my debate on hospices tabled for the 15th of April. Mr Deputy Speaker, for many years Darlington suffered from underinvestment, but the last 4 years have seen £23.3 million delivered under the Towns Fund, £139 million invested in our train station, £35 million invested in our Rail Heritage Quarter, £14 million invested in a vaccine library, £14 million to develop a hydrogen engine, and the Chancellor announced a further £20 million for Darlington under the long-term plan for towns. And to add to that, the Darlington Economic Campus has delivered 750 jobs and is contributing over £80 million per year to our local economy. Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is Conservatives like myself and Ben Houchin who are delivering for the Tees Valley? Does she share my concern from last week's report on projects being delayed? Does she share my suspicion that it is Labour councillors who are putting the brakes on projects? And can we have a debate on the massive success that Tees Valley Tories have delivered for Teesside?
Well, first of all, can I congratulate my honourable friend for securing that debate on hospices? I'm sure it will be extremely well attended. And he is absolutely right about the progress that has been made. I congratulate him on securing so much for his local area, and he is right. I think the employment rate in Teesside is 3% higher than comparable areas, and that is a massive achievement. I do hope that his Labour Council will get on with these levelling up projects. I understand that the planning process is bogged down, and they have not been able to get planning underway yet, which is very disappointing for his constituents. And I would urge him to carry on and ensure that these projects for which he has secured funding come to fruition.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. World Parkinson's Day is on the 11th of April, and this year's theme, There Isn't One Face of Parkinson's, reflects the fact that there are 40 symptoms for this disease, and every Parkinson's journey is different. With a postcode lottery and access to the right healthcare and insufficient targeted financial support for people with the condition, will the Leader of the House make time for debate on how we can ensure each unique Parkinson's journey receives the best support from government?
Well, on behalf of the whole House, can I thank the Honourable Lady for raising awareness of this upcoming event and ensure that we are all raising awareness of the symptoms, but also the support that we need to ensure that people have good care, and also money going into research too. I hope all honourable members will be taking part in that. She knows how to secure a debate on this issue, and I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard her interest.
Ian Littlegranger.
Speaker, can we have a debate in government time about a company called D-Charge? And it's a site at Greenways Farm in Uploman. This is a rural site that's going to get 330,000 metric metres of rubbish, rubble, etc. The thing that I think annoys people most is the local council, Devon, will not scrutinise this properly. They've just stuck their heads in the sand like ostriches. The chairman of scrutiny is to spend less time working under the leader and a little bit more time not shedding crocodile tears and actually doing some work. We all know in this House what a privilege it is to represent people, and that is a privilege which we all hold dear. But it is up to local councils to stand up for local people when lorries are going to be thundering down rural lanes and disrupting the way of life of rural people. Time is enough. Let's have a debate to sort this out.
Well, my honourable friend is extremely consistent in his criticism of his local authority. I'm sorry to hear about the situation, and I shall certainly make sure that the Secretary of State for Levelling Up has heard his concerns. I know he is a doughty campaigner, and if anyone can ensure that the impact of this proposal is alleviated for his residents, it is the honourable gentleman.
Matt Weston.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. Following the catastrophic kamikaze budget of 16 months ago, the public are extremely concerned about this promise that is being trailed by the government over the cuts to national insurance, which is a £46 billion implication. So would the Leader of the House, A, allow a debate, or tell us now, will it be by increasing income tax, by further cuts to our public services, or by increasing government debt?
Well, the honourable gentleman will know that is not a policy announcement that was in the budget. The budget was costed. It is independently audited. There is a clear scorecard that the House will be aware of. In stark contrast, Labour have kept a policy to spend an additional £28 billion without keeping the pledge of having £28 billion. That is what is illogical, and I'm sure that there will be an official from the Treasury that can sit down with the honourable gentleman and talk him through all of this.
Michael Ellis.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. All loss of life in conflict in Israel, Gaza or elsewhere is a tragedy, and it's very important that the UK government is working with the right figures for aid purposes and many other reasons. On that point, has my right honourable friend seen that a leading academic statistician from the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School of Business has calculated that the Hamas casualty figures are statistically impossible and obviously fraudulent? This shouldn't be a surprise, of course, coming from a terrorist organisation, but both front benches seem to be relying on them. Can we have a debate in the circumstances on the accuracy of statistics used by His Majesty's government?
Well, my right honourable friend raises a very important point. He should be reassured that those figures from the Ministry of Health in Gaza, which is run by Hamas, are only one data point that we use to assess the scale of the conflict and its implications on civilians. We do need to ensure that we have the most accurate data, and we're collecting that from satellite imagery of building damage, information from our humanitarian partners on the ground, and robust data on living conditions, and that's all fed into our assessment. It is a tragedy that is unfolding, and that is why we want to see a pause in fighting and get that aid in, and of course get hostages out.
Andrew Bridgen.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. China is increasing its carbon dioxide emissions by more than the UK's total emissions every year of this decade. China, Russia, India and others are opening new coal-fired power stations on an almost daily basis. Do they know something we don't, Mr Deputy Speaker? Independent scientists have stated that higher carbon dioxide levels would be beneficial for life on the planet through increased plant growth. So can we have a debate in government time on the cost benefits of net zero before trillions of pounds of taxpayers' money are wasted, something that will make the HS2 fiasco look like a warm-up act?
Well, the honourable gentleman will know how to secure a debate. He's just secured a debate on excess deaths, and he follows the same procedure. I'm sure he will have good luck in securing another debate.
Andrew Jones.
Mr Deputy Speaker, in Harrogate and Knaresborough since 2010 we've had over 12,000 apprenticeship starts, and this week's announcement of changes to apprenticeship policy were very positive and will help those numbers grow. What I like particularly was it will make it easier for SMEs to offer apprenticeships. The main message I hear from businesses is it's very challenging to fill the vacancies they have and bring in new talent. So can we have a debate about SMEs and apprenticeships and the skills policy to give them the boost they need to fill the vacancies they're creating?
Well, I thank my honourable friend for raising this. He will know that on Monday the Prime Minister set out a major package of reforms to support businesses, including £60 million of new investment to enable more apprenticeships to be created. We're also slashing unnecessary regulatory burdens through our Brexit Freedom programme and saving about £150 million a year for thousands of small businesses. And I thank the honourable gentleman for all the work he is doing in his constituency to ensure people are benefiting from these initiatives.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. There was a welcome last week for the first reading of the Football Governance Bill. Could I ask the Leader of the House then, when are we going to see the second reading? No mention of it today. We obviously want to get the bill through in time before the general election so it becomes law. There's widespread support for it. But one thing that wasn't mentioned at all was, of course, the Rentals Reform Bill. Where's it got to? All we've read about are discussions and debates and arguments between ministers and Tory backbenchers over changes that might be made to the bill. In the meantime, hundreds of people are being evicted through Section 21 notices. Families and children are being made homeless. So when is the government going to bring back this important legislation, which again has widespread cross-party support?
Well, can I start, first of all, on behalf of all of us, by thanking the honourable gentleman for all the work he has done across the House on the Football Governance Bill, all the stakeholder engagement he has overseen. I've attended many of those meetings myself, and I know that colleagues are very grateful to his efforts in that regard. These are important community assets as well as businesses. When Portsmouth was facing closure, I could not say to my constituents, don't worry, there's Southampton just down the road, you can watch your football there. It would not have worked, Mr. Speaker. Mr Deputy Speaker. I know that he is eager to see the Renters Reform Bill return. I'm glad he welcomes that. He will know that I'm going to say further business will be announced in the usual way, but I will ensure that officials in that department have heard what he has said.
Philip Holloburn.
Mr Deputy Speaker, I bring good news from Kettering, where Sainsbury's supermarket has restored free parking during the evenings in its town centre car park. They had planned to introduce charges for out-of-hours parking, but they've now listened to local opinion and representations from myself, the Kettering Civic Society and others to amend its plans. This is great news for those in the close vicinity, such as the Salvation Army, the Sikh Temple, popular local restaurants and the Kettering Arts Centre based in St Andrew's Church. So may we have a statement from my right honourable friend, the Leader of the House, both praising Sainsbury's for its social responsibility and encouraging people to visit Kettering Town Centre.
Well, can I congratulate my honourable friend for his campaign, his successful campaign, and in addition to his constituency being the most dog-friendly place in the UK, which we learnt last week, now people can also park for free, and I would join him in praising Sainsbury's and actually everyone locally who has worked to ensure this is happening and that Kettering Town Centre can remain vibrant and open to visitors.
Liz Truss.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. If You Care Share is an amazing suicide prevention and post-prevention charity supporting my constituents in Blaydon and people across the North East. Now, sadly, they weren't successful in the bid for the £10 million suicide prevention funding, and some of their work is having to come to an end. With the North East having the highest rate of suicide, their work is absolutely vital. Now, I and my honourable friend, the member for North Durham, will be approaching the Minister about their case. But can we have a debate in government time on the impact of short-term funding on charities working in this vital area?
Well, I'm glad that the Honourable Lady is going to be taking this up with the Minister. I know that where people and organisations have not been able to secure funding from a particular scheme, that the Department will work with those individual organisations or the local authorities under which they come under to improve the bid or to ensure that they can work with other organisations in the area. These services are critical, and they do need also to be sustainable. And I shall make sure that the Department for Health have heard what she has said.
Nicky Aiken.
Mr Deputy Speaker, my constituent Nadeem Anjuela, a UK citizen, has been detained in Nigeria since the 26th of February with no charges formally brought. His health is suffering and obstacles have prevented his lawyers and his family from ensuring he receives proper care. He has also just missed his son's first birthday. As the safety and security of British nationals is of course a top priority for the FCDO, would my right honourable friend please allow for a debate in government time on how we can enhance even further the FCDO's support for our citizens abroad?
Well, I know that my honourable friend is working very hard for this gentleman, and that she is in close contact with the FCDO. As she knows, officials are in contact with his family and legal representatives, and the UK's High Commissioner to Nigeria has raised this case with Nigerian authorities. She will know that we had a Westminster Hall debate on the 5th of September last year regarding British nationals detained overseas. It was well attended, and the Honourable Lady knows how to apply for a debate, and I think if she did, it would be similarly well attended. As the next Foreign Office questions are not until the 20th of next month, I shall make sure that the Foreign Secretary has heard what she has said.
Theresa Gibson.
Deputy Speaker, the Ombudsman report into the raising of the state pension age being raised is now published, a key finding of which is that there has been maladministration by the DWP and that the UK Government should do the right thing, apologise and come up with a mechanism to pay compensation to the women affected. Will the Leader of the House make a statement setting out her support for all WASPI women and for a compensation scheme which reflects the financial loss and distress those in Ayrshire WASPI, Cunningham WASPI and all WASPI women across the UK have suffered?
Well, like many across this House, I have cases in my constituency and have been working to support those individuals. But I would reiterate the government position, which is that I'm sure that the Secretary of State will want to update this House at the earliest occasion. Clearly, he will have to read the report and reflect on that, but I know that he is keen to do so very swiftly.
Craig Tracy.
Mr Deputy Speaker. This week I had the privilege of meeting the inspirational Hannah Gardner, who has incurable secondary breast cancer at the age of just 37. Hannah and thousands of other women recently received the devastating news that the life-extending drug Enhertu, described by his oncologist as a game-changer, had been rejected by NICE for use in the NHS in England, despite being approved in Scotland and 45 other countries worldwide. She brought a campaign to Parliament as it's the only realistic treatment left available for her, and time is not on her side. So can we have an urgent debate on getting all parties, including the drug companies, NICE and NHS England, back to the table and urgently approve Enhertu, so Hannah can at least realise her very modest wish of seeing her 3-year-old daughter, Lila, attend her new school?
Well, first of all, can I thank my honourable friend for all that he does in campaigning on this area and all the work that he does with a number of all-party groups, and also for him arranging for me to meet with Hannah when she was visiting Parliament. She is an inspirational woman, and the fact that she is campaigning so hard, not just for herself but other people, I think is testament to that. I would also thank the Breast Cancer Now team, who also came to visit me and are doing tremendous work in campaigning to ensure that not just this but other life-extending drugs can be approved. I'm sure that the Secretary of State will have heard about this campaign and will want to set up meetings to discuss this. I think about 1,000 women a year in England could potentially benefit from this drug, and given the fact that it is widely available elsewhere and other places are deeming it to be cost and clinically effective, I hope that NICE will reflect on that, and also potentially that a patient access scheme might be established. But I will make sure that the Secretary of State has heard what he has raised.
Bill Esterson.
In contrast to what the Leader of the House said to my honourable friend from Warwick and Leamington, on Tuesday at Treasury Questions, the Chancellor didn't deny he plans to abolish national insurance, an unfunded commitment of £46 billion. He also didn't deny that he might pay for it by increasing taxes on pensioners. So as it's the Chancellor, not the Leader of the House, who decides economic policy, will she arrange for a statement to be made to the House by the Chancellor to confirm how he intends to fill this £46 billion black hole in the government's finances, and whether it will be tax rises for pensioners, cuts to the National Health Service, increases in debt and borrowing, or otherwise?
Well, I suspect the event that the honourable gentleman might be recalling was actually a dream, perhaps after eating a large amount of cheese. I don't think that the Chancellor would have said that. I understand this is a line that the Labour Party are trying to establish. It's not working because I'm afraid the British public understand these things. They understand national insurance contributions, and the party opposite clearly don't.
Sir Jake Berry.
Deputy Speaker, can we have a debate about the application of the 1972 Local Government Act, particularly because Rob Huntington, the Chief Executive of Rosendale Borough Council, is seeking to use it to prevent the release of a copy of a financial impact report on the empty home scandal that was presented to councillors on the 9th of August 2022 in the Council Chamber, and also seeking to prevent the copies of documents discussed at a closed session of the Council under item D1 at a meeting held on the 18th of August 2022. And this is important because his refusal to release these documents, when added to the fact that they have threatened to take legal action against local authority councillors if they reveal what is in these documents, a gagging order by any other name, has lost the taxpayers of Rosendale and Darwin £12 million. The 1972 Act, if applicable, was not put in place to stop local authorities, their officers and the Labour councillors being embarrassed by their own incompetence.
Well, my right honourable friend, I think, makes his point very well. These individuals are accountable to their residents, and those facts should be exposed. I think he is right in his understanding of that Act and their responsibilities in it, but I will make sure that officials at the Department for Levelling Up write to the honourable gentleman to confirm that, and I would suggest that his local authority and those councillors in particular reflect on the stance that they are taking and consider the rights of those people that are paying their salaries and allowances.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. My constituents at Larkhill rely on the retirement village's ATM machine to access cash. And whilst I'm delighted that proposals for its removal have been withdrawn, residents will now face a fee. Does she agree with me that everyone, especially older and disabled people, should be able to obtain cash free of charge in places they can reach independently and use safely and securely? And can we have a debate about link and community access to cash?
Well, I congratulate the Honourable Lady on the success of her campaign, and she will know that it is a very clear responsibility that people do have free access to cash. Many people rely on that, and it is absolutely critical, particularly for certain community groups. I will make sure that the Department for Levelling Up have heard the Honourable Lady's concerns and that officials contact her office to give her advice about what courses of action are open to her to insist that these services are reasonably dispersed across her constituency.
Mr Deputy Speaker, crime and antisocial behaviour are indeed a big concern across Carshalton and Wallington, particularly violent crime, burglaries and, of course, shoplifting. Now, more police officers are on the street and crime is falling across the UK, but under Sadiq Khan's watch in London, we have seen crime go up. We have seen the Met miss its recruitment targets by nearly 1,000 additional officers, and we have seen a complete failure to get to grips with some of the major issues that are plaguing our local community. So could we have a debate in government time about how we can better hold the Mayor of London to account, as he just seems to not care about Carshalton and Wallington and the crime levels that they are facing?
Well, the honourable gentleman is not the first honourable member to raise concerns about the Mayor of London's performance with regard to the increasing crime and, most disturbingly, increasing violent crime. The honourable gentleman asks how we can hold him to account and whether we should debate that. I would suggest another course of action, which is to vote him out of office.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. The Leader of the House could have been coming here today to announce that the Rwanda Bill was coming back next week. She could have been announcing the Football Regulation Bill or indeed the Renters Reform Act, but she hasn't done, and we're told that Conservative senior government figures have said the reason that Conservative MPs are being sent home on a one-line whip until the middle of April was to placate Tory MPs and ease tensions. This is a government that simply ceased to function when the way that they have to stop their own most important policy is to send Tory MPs home so they don't have to vote for it. It is beyond a joke. So can we have a debate at the most urgent manner when we can have the general election that this country needs and get this useless government out of office?
Well, I don't think the honourable gentleman could have heard my business statement, and he may not be aware that the Football Governance Bill has been brought forward. But I would again just remind the opposition who make allegations about us phoning it in over this side of the chamber. We want our legislation to go through. If the business is collapsing, it is because the opposition aren't doing it. The opposition haven't even managed to get speakers for their own opposition day debates. I would suggest the honourable gentleman reflects on that.
Ben Everett.
Speaker, may we have a debate on government time about the obligations for local planning authorities to strategically plan for the infrastructure that is required to service their growth aspirations. It's particularly important to me and my constituents in Milton Keynes North, since the Labour-led council has announced plans for 63,000 new homes over Milton Keynes. We don't have targets anymore in the way that we used to, but back when we did, the Milton Keynes Council was building 3,000 houses against a target of just over 1,700. It is not the government that is making them do this, despite what they say, and our infrastructure will be what suffers. We need to have a plan for infrastructure before expansion, in particular with doctors' surgeries. I'm thinking in particularly with Cobb's Garden Surgery, an expansion project I've supported, but has been mysteriously binned by the ICB. We need that plan in place before we have any growth.
Well, I thank my honourable friend for all the work he is doing to ensure that his local residents have the services that they need, and that there is, where there is development, that is taken into account in terms of assessing that need. I know, together with other Conservative colleagues, he has been campaigning for a new GP surgery, for example. He will know that the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act introduced new powers to create an infrastructure levy, which aims to generate more funding for infrastructure projects, and local planning authorities will be required to prepare infrastructure delivery strategies as they bring forward development. As the next Levelling Up orals are not until after Easter on the 22nd of April, I will make sure the department has heard his concerns about his constituency, and I would ask that officials get in touch with him to give him advice about what he can do with the ICB.
Rebecca Long-Bailey.
Thank you. The Leader of the House knows already that this morning the Parliamentary and Health Service Ombudsman didn't just publicise its report, it laid its report before Parliament, which is very rare. It did this because it said, given the scale of the impact of DWP's maladministration and the urgent need for a remedy, we're taking the rare but necessary step of asking Parliament to intervene. I'm very disappointed that there is no Secretary of State here today to provide an urgent statement. So will the Leader of the House confirm when that will happen? But secondly, and more importantly, when will this Parliament be able to debate and amend a motion on this matter?
The lady for her question, and several members have raised the exact same point this morning. I think it is reasonable that the Secretary of State reflects on the announcement today, but I am absolutely sure he will want to update this House before recess.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. BT Openreach are installing telegraph poles in areas of Southport where residents oppose this. There has been no extensive consultation. Their actions have resulted in a huge waste of police time. They've paid very little attention to the advice that was given last week, and there are huge health and safety concerns. So can we have a debate so that I and other colleagues can raise these issues in here, because these telegraph poles are unwanted and are being installed unsafely?
Yeah. Request for a debate, but I understand that his actions have already had an impact with regard to what Openreach is doing. The Minister responsible raised the Honourable Gentleman's concerns with the Chief Exec of Openreach yesterday, who will be investigating further, and I understand that he will also be attending a round table with the Minister and other MPs on Monday to discuss this ongoing topic. I stand ready to assist the Honourable Gentleman in whatever way we can do to get this resolved, but actually the Honourable Gentleman is doing absolutely everything he can and has already secured many things which I think will get this resolved.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. It's getting on for 2 months now since the debate on mining communities was set to take place on February 1st, after it was displaced by the reforming of Northern Ireland Executive. Now, I have a constituent, Mr Anthony Rock, who, despite the best efforts of the National Union of Mine Workers, is being treated appallingly by the DWP regarding compensation for industrial illness. His health is getting worse, and this isn't about the money, it's about dignity for Mr Rock and recognition of his years of service in the British coal industry. I believe the Minister and other Coalfield MPs need to hear his story, so can the Leader of the House advise me on when we can find time for this crucial debate?
Leader of the House.
Well, I thank the Honourable Gentleman for raising this matter. He will know, as I've stated before, that whilst the scheduling of reorganisation of those debates is a matter for the Backbench Business Committee, we will be giving additional time to make sure that happens, and I was particularly keen and mentioned that specific debate, as I know members from across the House would be very interested in taking part. I will also ensure that we have flagged his concerns with regard to his constituent with the Department for Work and Pensions, as that question has just happened.
And finally, I'm thanking him for his patience. Peter Rolls.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker. And actually, I will just conclude on the point that I think 4 other members have made, including the Right Honourable Lady, the member for Salford and Eccles, with whom I co-chair the APPG on state pension inequality for women. We have had the Ombudsman's report this morning. It makes grim reading for the DWP in terms of their maladministration over many years. Its findings in terms of recommendations for compensation may disappoint many women, but the main issue coming out of the report is the need to lay the report through Parliament due to the low confidence that the Ombudsman has in the government coming up with a quick solution. I recognise and thank my honourable friend, the Speaker, the Leader of the House, for her assurance of a Minister from the DWP making a statement as soon as possible. But can I urge her to convey to them the need to go much, much further, much more quickly, to put in place a mechanism working with Parliament for this injustice, which has gone on for many years, to be remedied as quickly as possible.
Well, I can certainly give my honourable friend the assurance that I will raise this matter with the department and indeed will be doing so on behalf of all members who have spoken this morning. I thank him for all the work he has done with regard to the all-party parliamentary group, but also specifically on this issue, and as I said in my previous answers, I am sure that the Secretary of State will want to update this House at the earliest occasion.
Order. May I thank the Leader of the House and the Shadow Leader for their presence throughout what has been a very lengthy session. Point of order, Gavin Newlands.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy